Turbo Conquering Mega Eagle! Okay, so here's a couple of doodles of the crane we're about to build. And there you can see the side view with at the back a handlebar going to the old power barrow. And today we'll be re-engineering that power barrow and adapting it so it will be able to attach to the crane frame. Oh, look at this, my old fruits, eh? Classic piece of British engineering. This is the power barrow. I don't know when this one's from. I think maybe it's like sort of 1960s vintage, maybe a bit earlier, because we've got a JAP engine here. This is pretty rare. The Villiers are a lot more common. Personally, I've never actually touched one of these things. It's come to this, chaps. We've had to dig the Whitworth toolbox out. Okay. Oh, so light. So light. Eh? It's a beautiful little engine. Really beautiful little engine. I've had in the back of my mind for a while building a riveted aluminium mini bike. You know, ever since I built the first mini bike, and God, you know, I think I've just found the engine that's going to go in it. You know, if this was polished up, can you imagine it in a tiny little motorbike? Blah 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 blah. It's 4-stroke. It's a flatty, not a 2. So it's not going to be a blapper. Probably a little bit of a thumper, you know, but it's not got a recoil start. It's just got the old and it is seized up solid. I get some oil in it and then hide it away somewhere. So this is what the inside of an old power barrow gearbox looks like. Due to the left-hand hub being bodged on and having a gear stick, I'd made the assumption that this was equipped with a reverse gear and a differential, but in fact it's just a neutral and engage, and there is no diff. So it's at this point that I realised we'd have to build an engine that span 360 degrees underneath the crane, so it could drive in both directions in its forward gear, but could point it in both directions of the crane, if that makes sense. And in order to do that, that wouldn't be possible with a solid axle, asking it to spin on the spot that much. So at this point, this is when I totally redesigned it and came up with the single-wheeled 360 degree rotation design. Okay, so once I'd figured out the direction I wanted to go in, the first job was actually getting a wheel to fit on this thing properly, rather than on the bodged up Ford pop hubs. I don't know what the hubs came off originally, but they were pretty old, and they weren't actually attached to the axle properly. One end was spatter welded on, and the other end, I don't know, it was just sitting there basically. Yeah, hold on with one very badly worn pin going through it. So here's the beginning of the hub. Yeah. Just a bit of 10mm plate welded to a piece of 50mm round bar stock. We're just marking out our stud pattern here. Just bisecting the I forget what it's called now. Either way, bisecting a line in the centre of a circle and measuring out the 4-inch PCD and drilling those holes. The bolts are gonna just hold the wheel to the hub, and then I machined a proud surface in the middle, the bore, if you like, the locator, then that really takes the weight of things, I suppose, as it does on a car. Then we have the wheel fitted, wheel fitted up, whatever. Okay, and this is going to be the single arm that will mount this power unit to the frame of the crane. All nice and heavy still, although I still, I'm starting to think that it's not heavy enough, so I might actually go back and make this a little bit heavier, or just put some webs in when I know where everything else is going to go. This is the Honda we're going to use. Honda, just the most reliable little engine on the planet, I suppose. And the other thing is, if this ever fails, then I can just, 70 quid buys you a Chinese copy, doesn't it? But I'd rather not use a Chinese copy if I can help it. Some of them are okay. Lifan seem to be okay, but this is a genuine Honda. Genuine Honda. So what I'm doing here is just, I've cut out a plate the right size, drilled the holes, threaded them, set the engine bolts onto it, and then I can use the belt to line the engine up, and because it's already got the steel plate attached to the bottom of it, just weld it in place. Just makes life a lot easier, doesn't it? Fail proof. Although it doesn't actually look like it's very well lined up there. Yeah, there's a layer of grime on this old power barrow, and I washed it a couple of times, but it's just so heavily ingrained. And I washed it again when I was done. You can still see big puffs of smoke coming up every time I take a welder to it. Yeah, so this is the beginning of the handle. Yeah, because I'm gonna have to stand either end of this when it's driving. The handle has to spin through 180 degrees, I suppose, so I can pilot it from either end. Just if that makes sense. Okay, then on to the belt tensioner. This will essentially be our clutch. I'll probably leave the gears, the drive gear engaged all the time. I can't see myself ever selecting neutral with that. Not really much point. Okay, so here we're bastardising a Isuzu Trooper handbrake cable to use as the clutch operating cable for the belt drive. They were the new ones that I bought when I still had my Trooper, and then I got rid of it before I actually had a chance to fit them. So seemed like a good thing to do with them. Lovely bit of cable though. Much better than bicycle brake cable. And here we go. Always tension on the return side rather than the drive side, because you're not fighting the power of the engine then. Obviously we need a nice clutch cable, clutch lever to go with the cable. This is when things started getting a bit heavier. I did spend a little bit too long making this lever. I'm just tapering a bit of 16mm round stock on the lathe here to act as the lever. Had to do it in sections, so about 2 inches of taper at a time. Now we're putting a nice little bend on it. There we go. Alright, so the lever's fitted on the handlebars, and to make up some cable clamps, I suppose. Don't know what you call them, fair leads, I don't know, to secure the ends of the cables, and you know, to secure the sheath of the cable. And there we go. There's another one welded on there that I made. Lots of little bits that I made here that I didn't really film. It just seemed like you know, it's going to take more time to film them than it was to make them, so that's why I didn't see all of it. What am I up to here? For the life of me, I can't remember. Oh yeah, this is the pivot. So this will sit on top of the unit that we're currently making, and this is the pivot on which the crane will attach to the engine. So the whole engine will spin on this underneath the crane. The male portion, again, I think out of 2-inch round stock. So this is the piece that I'll actually weld up to the crane, and here's the sorry, that was the female, this is the male portion of the pivot out of 30mm. And here we are back on the female portion again. I've welded a flange to the bottom of it. There we are. That's the pivot.
Writing back would not allow him to leave. My Hanjong, hold on to my carriage and refused to. And through virtues they turned to the people of America.
And there is some more evidence that at least some of the Greenland Vikings may have actually departed for America. At around the period of the decline of the Greenland settlements.
Ho ho! Okay, folks, look at me. This is the beginnings of a mighty crane, alright? So, what have we done here? We chopped the back half off the original power barrow and got rid of the jap. We didn't get rid of it. It's been stored, safekeeping and all that. And then I had to remake the hub on this side. Because the old Ford pop brake drums weren't really very good. You put a knuckle there with the handlebar. The handlebar's got a clutch on it, and the idea of this is that I can just spin the whole thing around when I want to go backwards, yeah, and move the handlebar over to the other side. So that's nice and simple, which means it stands a good chance of actually working. Okay, and then what? Yeah, I had to make a little clutch. It's interesting. The original had 3 clutches on it, basically. Well, did it have 3 clutches? Had the centrifugal on the engine, then a belt clutch, and it has a neutral as well, which is weird. I don't know why you'd want all those. I think it looked like the belt clutch was an addition someone else had put on there. Hey, either way, so it's got a Honda on there now, a nice little original Honda. This was on the Mark 1 dump truck in the little 3.5 horse. Yeah? Went with 1 wheel rather than 2 wheels because it has no sort of diff. I had originally thought it did have a diff, but it is merely that one of the hubs wasn't actually attached to anything. So yeah, it has a solid axle, so it's going to be a lot more manoeuvrable if I just have 1 wheel. And you can see I've made this pretty heavy construction out the at the top, and this is where the crane is going to pivot. Yeah. Okay. Well, this will be the point at which this pivots on the crane, I suppose. That's nice and heavy. I'm sure you'll see more of that in the next episode of Mighty Crane Build. I just threw some paint on it out of a rattle can because I didn't want to bother getting you know, proper paint out yet, because I'll wait till the whole thing's ready and then paint it all in one go. So this has just come out of a spray can, so it will stop it rusting if it goes outside. And this, I've got to weld to it and then stick a couple of grease fittings in there, and that's that. So I suppose we better fire it up now and see if that wheel turns. I haven't actually started it yet. Let's see what happens. Let's see if my clutch works. Plenty of juice in there. Yeah, it just likes to choke at the minute. Okay, so it definitely works perfectly, absolutely perfectly. Couldn't imagine it working any better, to be honest. Pretty sweet little bit of construction going on here. So what happens next? Next I've got to build the craney frame itself. So it's I'll make a little picture so you can see what's going on my head. And after we've made the frame, I've got a load of I-beams, so that'll be good for the crane. And then it'll sort of be like an A-frame, I suppose, or TP more than an A-frame. And then the winch mechanism, which should be really fun, because I'd like to have that petrol driven as well. But you know, I'll find another engine to use for that. Otherwise, it would just be disgustingly complicated, wouldn't it? Yeah, cool. Anyway, that's pretty much. Did I show you my brake lever? You want to see my brake lever? I was just trying to do this quickly, you know. Right, just because I didn't really think it had to take long. And then I got the big bits of metal out to make the hub, which I didn't think was even going to be a problem. So yeah, things ended up taking a bit longer than they should have done. Oh yeah, and you know, the fact they had to make this mount and didn't have a reverse, so it all ended up being a little bit different to how I'd originally envisaged it. And then, because it was taking a little while anyway, I ended up wasting a whole evening on a brake lever. It wasn't quite a whole evening, but you know, a lot longer than it should have been. But I just tapered a nice bit of steel there and built a fork. Probably an evening for the whole handlebar, to be honest. And the Isuzu Trooper brake cable, which is working very nicely. If anyone's got old brake cables, send them to me, isn't it? I've got old ones, like new old ones that they can't be asked to put on eBay. Right, I will definitely make use of them. They're much better than bicycle brake cables. The clutch, what did I call this? Yeah, handbrake cable, or park brake if you're in the States. But probably if you're in the States, there's no point sending me anything, is there? Hey, yeah, I was looking for brand new brake, fuck's sakes, handbrake cables, and they're only a few quid, isn't it? I mean, they probably would have cost me quite a bit more because they're off a Trooper. Well, they're meant for a Trooper. They never got fitted. Anywho's, they're nice and heavy though. Right, it's like a 4mm cable with you know, at least 10mm outer, I guess. Anyway, that's where we are. So part 1 of the crane is complete. Part 2 should be a lot easier. Then part 3 is going to be a lot harder. Okay, alright folks, take it easy guys. I'll see you later. Bye bye.